he gonna get caught. He'll pop out on you. He get there too quick.
If I'm not mistaken, a 92-pound weight difference, almost a 100-pound weight difference. It's insane. Let's say he comes in at 200 pounds. It's still a 65-pound weight advantage, which is absolutely ridiculous. How can you be out there claiming to want to fight the best people on the planet?
Several seasoned boxing analysts have warned Jake Paul against stepping into the ring with Gervonta "Tank" Davis, especially after recent training footage showed Davis striking with blistering speed and relentless power experts are calling. The matchup physically risky and potentially damaging to boxing's credibility. They insist Paul must recognize Davis as a legitimate explosive fighter, not just a content creator, turned boxer. Critics point out that the new footage reveals Davis is not only fast and agile, but also technically precise and skilled at trapping opponents, which could spell real danger if Paul underestimates him. Even for a second.
Quite surprised because it sounded like Jake Paul and Joshua was getting closer and closer for January. However, there have been rumours of Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul in the past. I think with Gervonta Davis's kind of legal problems in the last month or so and rumours about his retirement, I don't think it's a massive shock that he is taking this Jake Paul fight if it is going to go ahead, purely for the reason that it's a lot of money for maybe not the most difficult job that he's going to have in his career. So it's a strange one, but yeah, it's just another kind of day in the sport, really, isn't it?
Promoter Eddie Hearn has strongly warned Jake Paul about the dangers of facing Gervonta "Tank" Davis, stressing that this fight could have serious, even devastating consequences for Paul. Be careful what you wish for. Hearn cautioned, calling the matchup a complete mismatch and expressing real concern for Paul's safety. While admitting the fight would generate massive commercial appeal, Hearn still believes the odds are 50-50 on paper, but his real message cuts deeper in this bout. Paul risks far more than just his undefeated record in Hearn's eyes. He's gambling with his health and well-being.
I think it's extremely dangerous for Jake Paul. You know, I've got the general feedback is the boxing world saying, please, AJ, go in and evaporate this young man from the boxing world so we can all get on as normal. You've got Jake Paul fans thinking bizarrely they can beat Anthony Joshua. And the most bizarre thing out of everything is that Jake Paul genuinely believes he will beat Anthony Joshua. I think that's the only reason we're going to see this fight. But I truly believe you're going to see it at the beginning of 2026.
Daniel Cormier offered a balanced but critical take on Jake Paul's decision to face Gervonta "Tank" Davis, acknowledging Paul's rise as both a promoter and a legitimate fighter. He said, "I respect Jake Paul today," praising how far Jake has come building himself into a star, big enough for Netflix to keep partnering with him. But Cormier didn't shy away from the obvious mismatch in size, pointing out that while Davis is clearly the superior boxer, he's giving up a massive weight gap. Davis last fought at about 133.8 pounds, while Jake hovers near 200 pounds. DC warned that if Davis somehow wins, it could shatter Paul's momentum completely. But if Davis loses, he faces humiliation for taking on someone so much bigger.
When the Disruptor Challenge is a legend, guys, anything can happen. When a kid that was on YouTube and on Disney walked in there and said, I'm going to be a professional boxer, Jake Paul needs to be commended for that. He had a vision, and he honestly executed that vision better than anyone ever could have expected. But sometimes you want something so badly that you don't recognize the dangers that come with wanting that thing and then getting that thing. Now Jake Paul has gotten himself to a point where he's fighting someone that could truly, truly end his career. Mike Tyson. We're talking about one of the scariest, most dangerous fighters to ever step foot in the squared circle. For me, it's pretty simple. Jake Paul in the Mike Perry fight, he got a great appetizer for what he will get in the main event. A fighter that starts very fast, that throws things to take your head off, and you have to kind of match the intensity to ultimately get your shots off.
Jake Paul today announced that he has signed with the PFL.
The PFL
L.
A couple weeks ago, Jake Paul and I were messaging each other about an appearance on my show, DC and RC. Just kind of talking about his future. And honestly, Jake and I have had some run-ins. When I started talking to him and I'm messaging him, he's a kid that's very respectful. And we had respectful conversations. He has an idea what he wants to do. Now, these kids today are different, right? So he's very boisterous. He's very verbal. He speaks big. But will Jake Paul actually fight in the PFL? A lot of boxers say they're going to fight, but they never actually do. Here's the thing about Jake Paul, though. He's from Ohio. Ohio has some of the best high school wrestling. Jake Paul was a high school wrestler there. So was his brother, Logan. They weren't bad. I believe this one, he'll actually fight.
For former super middleweight champion Carl Froch has sounded a serious warning about the safety risks surrounding the upcoming Jake Paul versus Gervonta "Tank" Davis exhibition, pointing to an alarming 65-pound weight difference. Paul usually fights close to 200 pounds, while Davis competes around 135. And although Davis is unquestionably the more skilled boxer, Froch cautioned that Paul's sheer size and unorthodox punching power could pose a real danger, saying Davis won't be used to being hit like that. His warning echoes the growing discomfort across boxing circles, with many seeing this not as a fair contest, but as a spectacle where legitimacy and fighter safety hang in the balance.
My name was mentioned at his press conference and he shit himself, and the fight was just absolutely fucking diabolical. Again, I've said before, he's not a professional boxer. He never will be. And he proves time and time again that he's not a professional fighter. So, Jake Paul, go on, piss off.
I don't really take Jake Paul that serious. He can't really box. He can have a little fight, he can have a swing. He swings away, stands up straight, and he throws punches, but it's not professional boxing. Because when I watch him box, he does so much wrong. It's just everything's wrong. It's so bad. He's got leaky defence. He telegraphs his punches. Like, you put him in with someone his own size, it was a professional, and it's a mismatch. And you'll see that if he ends up fighting somebody. Tommy Fury, bless him, he's a pro boxer, but he's inexperienced. He's got no amateur pedigree. He's a raw novice, or maybe just above the raw novice. I was saying earlier, where would I put him in terms of levels? He'd do well to win a British title. He's at that sort of level, and then from British title to world level, it's like different worlds. It's like totally different. It's like a different sport.
Just here at Los Naranjos in Viva, España, and I found out that Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been played? Let me know what you think. But the AJ fight with Jake Paul's finished. Gervonta Davis, fake Paul, November. I don't know what's going on in the world of boxing. This is an absolute joke. What next for AJ? We'll get into this, and there's so many questions I want to get into in the next episode, but I hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, I just thought I'd give you a quick update because the news has just come in and I'm just trying to relax and play a bit of golf, and I can't. I've got to get it off my chest. I'm going to add it to this video. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit like, share and subscribe to the best channel in the business, Froch on Fighting, and we'll see you very soon.
And Garcia slammed the matchup between Jake Paul and Gervonta "Tank" Davis, calling it completely insane and questioning how anyone could take it seriously. He argued that modern boxing is losing its integrity, saying the sport now looks more like professional wrestling than a legitimate competition. According to Garcia, fights like this make boxing harder to respect because they prioritize spectacle over skill. And in his own blunt words, boxing is officially the WWE.
Today we're going to talk about the boxing world and another fight that Jake Paul just booked for his joke of a career against a 65-plus smaller guy than him in Gervonta Davis. Jake Paul is a circus sideshow for low IQ incels. Nobody should be falling for this carny bullshit about him being a real fighter. Gervonta is a million times better than him, so he has to handicap Gervonta's skill by being a giant lab rat with a 65-plus weight advantage over him. This is a joke. This is a mockery to the sport of fighting. You know, the best are supposed to fight the best. Why is he fighting a guy that's, you know, in his last fight, Mike Tyson, who, you know, he's got a 40-year age gap between them? You know, why are you fighting a guy that should be in line for, you know, the early bird special, not fighting in a boxing ring and Mike Tyson? Now you're fighting a guy who is tiny. He's a 130-pound fighter. You fight in the 210, 220 weight range. So, this is another joke in Jake Paul's career. He claims to want to be a real fighter, but he's not taking the real steps to be real fighters and fighting top 10 guys and fighting the best guys in the world. He fights these circus sideshows against guys that have no business being in there against him. So I guess this is the state of boxing. It's dead. UFC took over, and this is what you get now. You get this YouTuber who is on Lizzie McGuire, and he wants to claim to be a real fighter, but he doesn't want to fight real fighters. So I think it's ironic, though. Why would he hire a lawyer to sue people that say that his fights are fixed if they weren't? Allegedly. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. You guys do the math. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Amir Khan blasted the upcoming Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis exhibition, calling it disgusting and dangerously irresponsible. He warned that the massive size gap with Paul, around 200 pounds, and Davis at just 135, plus an 8-inch height difference, makes the matchup unsafe and something no real commission should ever sanction. Khan said fights like this risk serious injury and destroy the sport's credibility. He also praised promoter Turki Alalshik for refusing to back these YouTube-style spectacles that turn boxing into entertainment instead of competition.
On a guy who's obviously a lot heavier than him, but in an exhibition fight. What are your thoughts on this fight?
A really bad mismatch, and you know what? Whoever the promoter is and that's agreed Gervonta to fight, and whoever the promoter is to fight for Jake Paul to say fight this little man. I mean, that's wrong, man. I mean, that's just like torturing someone. I mean, going in there and hurting someone is just not fair on Davis. But like, say you don't know what position Davis is in. I heard that he's been having a lot of legal problems and been arrested a couple of times for a couple of felonies and stuff I've seen with his ex-wife and stuff. So you know what? You don't know what's going through his head. Maybe he just wants to cash up and walk away from the sport. And maybe this is a great opportunity for him where he's seen this fight come up and he's like, fuck it, I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, I think they're making boxing a joke, really.
Yeah.
One day someone's going to end up getting hurt so badly, then it's going to definitely destroy the sport.
Michael Bisping tore into Jake Paul, calling him exactly what he thinks he is, a bully, pointing out the ridiculous size and reach advantage Paul has over smaller fighters like Canelo Alvarez, with nearly 60 pounds and 7 inches on them. Bisping said Paul isn't proving anything by picking undersized opponents, accusing him of chasing easy wins instead of real competition. He called it an embarrassment to the sport, saying Paul hides behind spectacle and size rather than skill in Bisping's eyes, pretending to be a serious boxer while cherry-picking smaller fighters. Isn't bravery, it's straight-up bully boy tactics.